We're starting recording again. Okay, good morning to everybody. We are a few days before Pesach, and of course we have to talk about Pesach, and not only about Pesach, also our parshat, because things don't just happen. There is an intention, there is a reason, and we want to connect the parasha to the Leila Seder night, to the Haggadah. And what is the connection? The connection, for example, if we're looking into it, the connection is, Vaydaber Hashem el Moshe, and God talks to Moses and tells him, Tzavet Aaron, order Aaron and his children to say, that's the Torah of the Olah. The Olah is a sacrifice that you bring morning and evening, every day, through the whole year. Al Mugdal Mizbech, you put it on the altar, on the fire, the whole night till the morning, and the fire of the altar will be in it. In it, here we have a few interesting points that we have to make sure that we understand. First of all, what's the meaning of tzav, to order? Says Rashi, and tzav el lashon zeruz. Zeruz is like to expedite, to make him do it quicker, and in a way that somebody is lazy of doing things, that you have to expedite him to do it quicker and more with enthusiasm. And it's not only for now, says Rashi, it's for the next generation to come, which is also interesting. First of all, did Aaron HaKohen need somebody that's going to tell him you have to do things properly? You have to expedite Aaron HaKohen? This is it's unbelievable. No, well, Aaron HaKohen, the great guy. And then, what does it mean forever? What does it mean for the next generation? We haven't got this sacrifice today. But the truth is that, as we said and explained in the past, there are sacrifices today. And let's say maybe they are more important than the sacrifices we had before. Because sacrificing something means giving something from me to somebody else. Sacrifice myself, sacrifice something from me to whom? To God. What's the meaning of sacrificing to God? Sacrificing to God, the meaning is giving from me to others. Because God created this whole world and he wanted us to love each other. And when you love your fellow man, you love God. And korban in Hebrew, korban is litkarev, from the language of litkarev, to get closer to God, closer to do your task in life. And this is when you give from yourself. Okay, no problem. So we have sacrifices today. So what's the meaning of saying it like in a way that to expedite us to do this? What's so important about it, and especially when we have Aaron HaKohen involved in those things? So the truth is, if we understand what's the meaning of this sacrifice, Korban HaOlah, we'll find out something very interesting. This Korban, this sacrifice, you bring every day through the whole year, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, Shabbos, Yom Tov, every day. It starts the morning in the temple and it ends the day in the temple with this sacrifice. Twice a day, every day. Now imagine to yourself doing this for a whole year and another year. What would you think will happen? You get used to it. And when you get used to it, unfortunately, you don't even know what you're doing. You're just doing it because you have to do it. That's not a way to bring a sacrifice. A sacrifice you have to bring from your own will and with the fire burning with excitement. And this is also what's written here. The fire should be on the altar the whole night, and the fire should be to cut bow. In it now. The fire is on the altar, it's not in the altar, but the Torah is not talking about the altar. This fire is the fire that should burn inside us, inside those who bring the sacrifice. Because, as we say, when the time flies and you are used to do those things, and you do them every day, you get used to it and you just say it, mitzvat anashim melumada. You say it because you have to say it, and sometimes, see people, for example, they daven, they don't even know what they say. No, what is this connected to the Haggadah, to Pesach? It is connected in a very, very important way. Because if we look at the 4 sons that we have in the Haggadah, we see we have the ארבעה בנים דיברה התורה. כנגד ארבעה בנים, sorry, דיברה התורה. אחד חכם, one is clever, אחד רשע, one is evil, one is innocent, and one doesn't know how to ask. Let's talk about the chacham and the rasha for a minute. The chacham, the wise guy, the clever guy, what is he saying? מה העדות והחוקים והמשפטים אשר ציווה השם אלוקינו אתכם? What does he say, the wise guy? What are the testimonies, the chukim, and the statutes that Hashem, our God, commanded you? Okay? What is the rasha saying? מה העבודה הזאת לכם? לכם ולא לא. ולפי שהוציא את עצמו מן הכלל, the wicked son says, what is this service to you? And he says to you, but not to him. In other words, he takes himself out of the equation. He doesn't belong. So this is why you should answer him like giving him a this, enough. What's the difference between what the Chacham said and the Rasha said? What did the Chacham say? מה העדות והחוקים והמשפטים אשר ציווה השם אלוקינו אתכם? He says, what are all those laws and chukim that God ordered you? Again, he didn't stop talking about himself. He also he took himself out of the equation. He is not a part of it. So what does it mean? How can it be? So we have to understand what's going on here. The Rasha says the same as the Chacham. By the way, I did one year again that I took parts of the questions of the Chacham and the Rasha and the Tam and put the answer in a different way. And people got muddled up between the Rasha and the Chacham, between the wicked guy and the clever guy. But there is a small difference, because the Chacham says, what are the laws and the chukim that our God is not taking himself out? He says our God, it is also his God. But is asking, I want to know the laws, the chukim, but this is also very interesting. What's the Chacham? What is he so clever if he doesn't know the laws and the chukim and the halachas? Is he clever? This is not a clever. Maybe it's the innocent guy, maybe it's the one who doesn't know how to ask, but that's definitely not a clever guy. And then, again, we must make a definition between the rasha and the good guy, the clever guy. The rasha says, it doesn't say, we understand now the difference between the wicked guy and the clever guy, and now we want to understand what exactly is the clever guy asking, because it looks like if he's so clever, why doesn't he know the laws and the chukim? But what the clever guy is really asking is a very clever question. He is asking, I understand that I should be, sorry, doesn't work today, what I'm doing, sorry. Okay. So when we see the clever guy, what he's asking, he's really asking a very clever question. He says, I understand that I have to sit here in the Seder night and listen to you about what I should do and the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. I'm a young boy, but you are an adult and you're clever and you're wise. You know all this. Why you have to sit here? And the real question is connected to what we say in the Haggadah before. We said, Maaseh Rabbi Eliezer, this is famous story with Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Yeshua, and Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah, and Rabbi Akiva, and Rabbi Tarfon, that they were sitting in Bnei Barak and telling about Yetziat Mitzrayim all the night till the morning, till the student came and told them it's time to daven, to say Shema Yisrael. It's morning already. And why do those very clever people, we're talking about Rabbi Tarfon, Rabbi Akiva, which is the greatest scholar that we had. He knows about Kabbalah, the Maaseh Merkava. He knows all those beautiful, unbelievable high things, spiritual things. Why don't you discuss all those high spiritual things? Because the Torah tells us, and our sages tell us, Afilu kulanu chachamim, even if we're all clever and wise, and we old, and we know the whole Torah, there is a mitzvah to tell the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. And the more we tell, the better it is. What does it mean? To tell the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim is meaning not to be clever, to tell the simple story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. That's what we have to do. And that's why the Torah shows us that even those clever people, very clever, our sages, they were telling, not doing chidushim on halacha, talking about the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. So this is the question of the clever guy. He's asking why? Why should somebody who knows the whole Torah, somebody who did this Seder night for years, somebody who knows the whole year is talking about Yetziat Mitzrayim, he knows everything. Why should he sit and speak and tell his friend about Yetziat Mitzrayim? Because when I am here on the table, I understand it. But if you sit alone, still you have the obligation to tell the story to each other. Even if somebody sits only with his wife, like unfortunately it happened to us last year, hopefully this year it's not going to happen. Even then, he has to tell the story to his wife, or the wife has to tell the story to the husband. And when they're sitting alone, so they have to tell the story to themselves. In other words, it doesn't matter if there is a kid there or not. Of course, the main idea is to transfer the message to the next generation, but the obligation is also to us, to the kid in us. And this is a very clever question. Why? Really, if somebody sits alone, if somebody sits with others, if somebody sits like Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva, all those clever guys, why should they talk about Yetziat Mitzrayim in a way of telling a story? Why don't they speak about clever things, about Kabbalah, the secrets of the Torah? You know why? Because as we said in the Korban Tamid, this sacrifice that you bring every day, you get used to it. And when you get used to it, you don't even notice what you say. And this is why you need to remind yourself to light this fire. Esh HaTamid, this says to light the fire is not on the altar. It should be in you, and especially in things that you get used to. And one of those things is Yetziat Mitzrayim. Yes, we say it every day, but do we really think about it? Or we get used to it and we start thinking that everything happens because there is nature, the election, the corona. No, there is a God behind everything. And the basic of our belief is Yetziat Mitzrayim. This is why in the Sefer of Kuzari, the friend, Rabbi Yehuda Levi, tells the king of Kuzar, I believe in God that took us out of Egypt. And the king laughs. You believe in God that took you out of Egypt? Everybody told me it believes in God that created the world. What is so big about taking us out of Egypt? He says, because. The whole book then explains the idea. And this idea is really in the acid, is in the Seder night, to show to our kids, to our friends, and to ourselves that God is the one who created the world. The 10 plagues, each one of them is one of the important things of the creation. And there are explanations for each one of the plagues to explain a part of the creation. When God created the world, there was no witness, nobody. But when God did the miracles of Yetziat Mitzrayim, millions were there, seeing all those miracles, that they are a proof that God created the world. This is why Yetziat Mitzrayim is so important. Unfortunately, we look around and we live in a world and we start thinking we're fighting the corona. We think that the corona is the reason. Oh, this is what we should fight. No, we should fight about our sacrifices, to bring our sacrifices with the flame burning, with excitement, with love to God. Then everything else will vanish. All the corona and all the problems will go away because we learned the lesson. And this is why we sit the whole night and tell the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. Wow, this is really a clever question of the Chacham, if we understand what he's saying. And look at the answer. The answer looks, I'm sorry to tell, looks a little stupid. The answer, and you will tell him also the laws of Pesach, offering, and afikoman may not be served at last course after the Pesach lamb. Afikoman in Aramaic is not the matzah that we eat in the end of the Seder. In Aramaic, it's dessert. Afikoman, it's dessert. And the Torah tells us that after the afikoman, there is no dessert. I'm asking, what exactly did we answer to the clever guy? And what is so clever about this? Sorry to say, it looks like a stupid answer. It doesn't have anything to do with the serious question he asked. But if we understand and realize, why are we not allowed to eat dessert after the Korban Pesach? You know why? Because the Gemara says you have to stay with the taste of Korban Pesach. You have to stay with the taste of the sacrifice of Pesach that tells you the story of the creation, tells you the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim. You shouldn't eat anything else that will disturb you, that will distract you from this beautiful idea that the whole thing is to burn, to light this flame in you that will burn forever. Korban Tamid. To Kadbo, this fire should be on and on endlessly. And this is why we sit the whole night and speak about Yetziat Mitzrayim. And this is why we should not have anything to eat after the Korban Pesach. And what is the Korban Pesach today? The matzah. So this is why we call the matzah afikoman. It's not afikoman. It's the Korban Pesach, but it is the dessert because the only thing you finish the Seder night is not with the normal dessert. Your dessert this night is Korban Pesach, and that's it. This matzah, and you're not allowed to eat anything afterwards. So here we understand now that this answer is really a very clever answer to a very clever question. And by the way, we learned the basic of the idea of the Haggadah, that we should talk about the Haggadah and tell the story. You know, I remember years ago when we got married, me and Joanne. In the beginning, in the first years, we used to go to my parents-in-law to have Seder night. And we had this family that joined us every time, that they did Aliyah together. And they had children, very clever children. And they were discussing all night about showing how clever they are and all those chidushim. And we never heard the real story of what Yetziat Mitzrayim. And it was so boring that really those are the Seder nights that I remember not very, let's say, not in a very good eye. But the funny thing is that all those clever guys that were trying to show how clever they are, today, they are unfortunately a little far away from religion. Because to go in the way of God, it's not showing off. It's not being arrogant. It's to be humble from anava. It's to give others, not to hear yourself, but hear others. And don't show you're so clever, especially when the Torah tells you, this is a day, this is a day that you tell the story, not other things. And this is exactly the acid of the Seder night. Now let's go back and finish this story with the rasha. As we said, the rasha, it looks like we are sending him away. And we're telling him, I'll give you you give him to the tisa, chinav, and tell him, ba'avur zeh, what you are saying, like, what is this? This is what made us go out from Egypt. And if you had been there, you wouldn't go out of Egypt. And the question is, really, that's the way to talk to one of our children? It doesn't look good, it doesn't sound good, and it cannot be the truth. Why? Because the ways of the Torah are ways of gentleness and kindness. And we are talking about a son. And it doesn't matter what this son did. He's sitting on the Seder night, meaning there are those who don't sit on Seder night. Okay, those are, let's say, we can say they are a lost cause. And the Rabbi Lubavitch always to say that the fifth glass is for those children, the son that didn't come to Seder night. We're waiting for him to come. But the guy that is in Seder night sitting with us, how can we call him rasha? How can we evil? And how can we send him away after we're sitting there? If he's sitting there, means he wants to know what it's all about. He is connected. Yes, he's saying, what is this to you? So if he doesn't concern about it, if he doesn't care about it, why is he sitting there? In other words, something here works, but you need to show him that those things are real and important. And how do you do this?
So the answer should be in a different way. Sometimes the melody, the way you say things, change the whole meaning. And here is the same story. Says the Rav Mizrahi, says a beautiful thing. Says, this is the way you should see. When you see this wicked guy, this rasha, asking the question, what is this job to you? Saying, my dear son, you know, for all those things that you say, God took us out of Egypt. And my dear son, you have to understand, if you would have been there and taking yourself out from all those mitzvahs and putting yourself outside Am Israel, you would make us very sad. We love you so much, but if you do this, we will have to leave without you, and you will stay behind in Egypt. Or in other words, when the Geula will come, God will take us, and you are going to break our heart. You're going to stay here, and you know how much we love you. So listen and understand that that's not something that happened years ago. This is not a primitive, what do you know about this youngster that look on the past like. And if you say it this way, what do you think will happen to your son? Something here will work. It's like the Rav Uri Zohar once said that he knew somebody who had a child that he was going in the wrong way and going to nightclubs in the night and doing things that silence is better for, not to say about. So the parents didn't know what to do. You know what he told them to do? You put on the table in the living room a plate with sweets, cake, and things, and a note. Our dear son, we love you very much. Here's something when you come home. And the interesting thing is, when the son came home, and you see that despite what he is doing, his parents are still loving him. Not only loving him, they make sure that he's got something to eat when he comes so late or so early in the morning home. This guy changed his life and become a believer that gives to the congregation. This is the idea of the Seder. To make sure that all the sons, and by the way, the sons doesn't have to be your biological son. It can be a friend, it can be your neighbor, it can be anybody who sits on the Seder night with you. You have those four kinds of people, 4 kinds of sons, 4 kinds of behavior that we have inside us also. One side of us is the Chacham, the clever guy. The other side is the evil guy, evil inclination, Yetzer Hara. And the other one is an innocent one. Okay. And then you have the one who doesn't know how to ask. So we have to answer each one of them in the right way. And that's the way to do the Seder night. And prepare ourselves before, not wait for the last minute. Make sure you know who is going to be with you on the Seder night, that you can help him come closer to God, come closer to society, come closer to the Torah, to understand and realize how God loves us and how he took us out of slavery to freedom, but freedom of the mind, not physical freedom. Physical freedom is nothing if you haven't got the freedom of the mind. You have a lot of people that they free from a physical point of view, but mentally they are ill and they're not free. They are in jail all their life. So let us go out of jail. Let us go out of Egypt. Let us elevate ourselves and sacrifice the sacrifice that we bring every day. This night we're going to sit and tell everybody the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim with excitement, with a fire burning inside of us. Thank you very much. I hope that the beginning wasn't so good, but I hope that you enjoyed the rest of it. Thank you and have a Chag Kasher v'Sameach, all of you.